Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Think Small podcast. I'm your host, Denise Steinbring. Today's guest is the third generation leader of a family business that has survived bankruptcy, economic collapse, and a global pandemic, and somehow turned every constraint into a competitive advantage. She has a master's degree in experiential education and has published peer-reviewed research on why off-site retreats drive connection and retention for teams. And she is proof that sometimes the best growth strategy isn't about having more stuff. It's about having fewer people in more meaningful spaces. This is Abby Oxborough, CEO of Sugar Lake Lodge in Minnesota, a beautiful location. Abby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yes. So your great-grandfather and great-uncle built what was called Rutgers at Bay Lake, and that had been there. It's beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Your parents built Sugar Lake and pulled it out of bankruptcy in 1993. And now you're the one deciding how it grows. But before we get into the big questions, I'd love for you to walk our audience through what you inherited and what you decided you wanted to do with it.
Yes, great. I honestly, if you had talked to me a while ago about what I thought I was walking into, I think I would have been like, oh, it's no problem. It's going to be, I grew up here. It should be pretty easy for me to take this challenge on. But I'm very quickly learning that there's a lot that I don't know. It's been a huge undertaking. I'm very fortunate to have, like you said, come in from a hospitality family. I grew up, running around Bay Lake and watching my family put together some really meaningful experiences for people. And that is something that has stuck with me through every iteration of my career. So coming into this it wasn't necessarily an easy decision. It was more of a call. It felt like a place that I really connected with and didn't want to see it go into the hands of somebody else. I think that legacy piece and, the family owned ongoing hand down to the next generation it's such a unique experience, and what a privilege to be able to say that, my extended family, has been in this industry for 200 plus years, and to be part of that that's really cool. And it's an incredible opportunity. So it's a lot of work, but I feel like that's a challenge that I find really interesting and exciting.
Yeah. And so what personal decisions did you have to make, right? Because Sugar Lake Lodge is up in northern Minnesota. You probably had a different career going on, not in that area. So, what did that mean for you personally to have to step into a different location, moving your family, taking the home from, a very successful operation?
Yeah, it was a big decision. My husband and I used to travel for a living, very millennial of us to live out of backpacks, right? So we had the inclination of being in a bigger city forever. That was kind of the plan. And we came back to help for a summer. They were pretty low on staff, early 2015, 2016. And found that everything that we had been doing together from a travel standpoint kind of connected us back to this place pretty easily and pretty quickly. I will give my husband a lot of props because, getting rid of and just dropping a career that you're pretty used to and, agreeing to take on a family business in northern Minnesota that's pretty selfless. So he's, big props to him for following me here. But, once we got here, I've been here since I was 6 years old. And, you get that feeling like when you went to summer camp and you drive in that first day to be dropped off and you're full of butterflies and you're kind of nervous and kind of excited. And I truly get that every day that I'm here. Every day that I step on property is really, it's such an opportunity to make somebody else's day that much better. And I think I take that very seriously. But I kind of want to show myself some respect in making this decision and making the best out of it, because we could have traveled forever. We could have been in different countries here and there. And instead we found a lot of value in this smaller town, very nature focused area. And, I saw what was possible in this place, and it pushed me and motivated me. And I think that's what really set the tone for how we're taking this over.
Talk to me a little bit about what you shared that's been the hardest part for you so far in terms of, this is a big deal to be inheriting this business from
Right.
several generations, right? So talk to us a little bit about how you feel.
I think the number one thing that, keeps me up at night per se, um, is really the ability to innovate without losing what our value and our morals are. There's a lot of pressure to be the best of the best, at everything. And I think what I have found, the most difficult is trying to make it very clear that, everybody has their specialties. I think there are so many resorts in Minnesota that you can choose from, and they all have such unique offerings. And I love that. I love that the diversity of it is possible. I think the hard part for me is not only taking this legacy on, but also making it clear that, we're very human focused. We care so much about our staff. We have a very low turnover rate. We have, you know, high school students, college students coming back. We support the community. And I think, being the one that is making those decisions, but also in the back of my mind saying, is this what my great grandfather would have done? Or, my dad is around consistently. He will never retire. And I hope that he never actually does. But he's always that voice in the back of my head of, is this a good idea? Or are we doing this for the right reasons? So I think that's been really hard, to really have that confidence in making those decisions and making sure that you're doing things the right way. I can't imagine I'm the only one that feels that way. It's always,
Absolutely.
yeah, you're winging it sometimes, but doing the best you can with the information that you have it's just what we can do at this point. So
Yeah. And so that you're absolutely right. That second guessing yourself, right? I think that's a lot of owners, founders, entrepreneurs, right? Who would love to have a thought partner. Who do you
mhm.
surround yourself with in terms of, obviously your dad, has a lot of the history. But are there people or community partnerships, that fill your soul in terms of thought partnership, mentorship, a sounding board, somebody who
Yeah.
can pressure test those ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. As I get into this, I realize more and more that, community is the biggest piece of, really not only having the confidence, but also getting some really clear ideas and feedback from just a standpoint of, mentorship is huge. We run a program called L3 with an organization called the Proudy Project. And Peter Bailey, who runs it, and Sam Smith are two leaders that I find so incredibly valuable in not only my leadership development, but my business development. They know our site in and out. They've been doing cohorts, both open enrollment and with organizations. And they know our place in and out. And I think having two people like that and this partnership with the Proudy Project is such a valuable way for me to not only get my concerns or maybe even when I'm starting to doubt myself, if I can chat with them. They do such a good job of reminding me what it is that we offer and the things that we're good at, and here are ways we can improve. And there's never a condescension in that. It's, they are seasoned, they are experienced, they know so much more than I do. And I think the biggest thing is that they have treated me with the same respect as I treat them. And that has been so valuable for me to be able to call. And, a lot of times they'll get me, crying about something that is maybe not that big of a deal, but it's nice to have people that are like, yeah, that tracks. Like, that's an emotional experience. Let's move, let's talk it through. It's almost like mini therapists. I
Yeah,
love having that.
yeah.
But additionally, my family, my siblings have been a huge part of this too, in helping me take on this generational shift, which it's so delicate. And my dad and I have an incredible relationship. I talk to him every day about everything, and vice versa. But being able to talk to someone who knows him and me in a different
Right.
capacity,
Yeah.
specifically a family, is really nice. So my brother, he gets my calls a lot too, just in terms of how to navigate conversations. And my sister is very, welcoming in helping and aiding in that as well. So I I have these really close relationships, with people that really know us. But in addition to that, I've been really involved in the Minnesota Chamber as well as the local Chamber of Commerce. And I don't think I ever realized how valuable those relationships are and the people that run them. I'm so grateful for April Arneson, who runs our local Grand Rapids Chamber. She very much understands what we're doing, what the need is, and our collaboration it's been just incredible. It's such a great space for me to feel comfortable and safe in putting out crazy ideas and having support in that.
Sure.
Long-winded answer, but
No,
that's
that's great. It definitely goes to the heart of what you said earlier is that, you really care and you're very human centered, right? And so you're
Mhm.
looking for those people to sort of lift you in the process as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
For people that are listening that maybe have not joined their Chamber of Commerce, can you give a couple of examples of things that were really valuable to you, whether they were resources or people or thought partners or what have you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's twofold. The Minnesota Chamber specifically is such an incredible resource for skills development, networking. I hate the word networking, but connections with other people. I have found that the events that they plan and a lot of the workshops that they provide, they have a big kickoff event in the fall that is just a great opportunity to interact with people from across every industry, and it's not uh, intimidating. It's very open and welcoming. They do so much with lobbyists and interacting with our government officials. And I think for all of us to be involved in what those conversations look like and really feel supported is they do such a great job of that. They also have various programs like Leaders Lab, Leadership Minnesota, these cohorts of bringing thought leaders together, which, to be fair, at the very beginning, I'm thinking, I don't think I am the one to be a part of something like Leadership Minnesota. It's very major CEO, Fortune 500. But the number of people that get into it and say it is the most level playing field, everyone's in there, to connect with each other and understand how we can actually support each other. And that is what like really drew me to that kind of thing. They do such a good job of connecting people in the right ways. And our local chamber, I never realized how incredibly beneficial it is to have relationships with, other local businesses, local business leaders, investors, everything, and through the chamber is the number one hub for connecting those people. And if you get into a spot where you're thinking, I would love to learn more about, like, if I'm going to switch my payroll system, where do I even start aside from, asking Google? And to be able to go to a session, a monthly session that they have and just start asking questions, and they've got roundtable discussions and people that are willing to, sit down with you to have coffee and say, this might be a better option for you than what you're doing. And that is where I have found the most value in the chamber. It's so welcoming and this like instant sense of belonging. So I cannot recommend being part of that stuff enough. It's such a great way to go about connecting with others without feeling intimidated and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's such great, valuable feedback because, when you're building a business, time is currency, right? And I think a lot of
Yes,
people just feel like I don't have the time to go offsite and go to a meeting and, things like
right.
that. But to your point, it can bring a completely different perspective or a new way of doing things or, so making
Yeah.
the time is really critical because getting out of your environment kind of helps your critical thinking skills as well.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. Like the value that I can bring to our organization and what I can help with, certain knowledge of things or ways that I can support my staff is I'm so much better off when I actually make that time to do those
Mhm.
events and to be in those rooms. It's so hard to justify and say, I don't have time. But I would very much argue that I do when I can actually find holes in my schedule and make a concerted effort because I'm such a better leader and coworker when I have the opportunity to have those interactions with different people and then bring it back to the organization to be really just that much more clear and welcoming and able to make decisions knowing that I had those conversations with other people. So definitely.
And it's so great that you have that self-awareness. I had a smart mentor one time told me all boats rise when a leader gets better, right?
Yes,
And so you
absolutely.
have to invest in yourself and making sure you have perspective and you
Right.
know knowledge about what's going on in your local marketplace, and in the Twin Cities, because you're drawing people up from the Twin Cities into northern
Exactly.
Minnesota. So it's great that
Definitely.
you have your finger
Yeah,
on the pulse.
totally agree.
Well, let's switch to what you do in the off season.
Sure.
So, you have a master's degree in experiential education, and we talked about the peer-reviewed published research on why
Mhm.
offsite retreats drive connections. And you also talked about other family resort businesses are completely dependent on summer revenue because they're more just about family experiences, but you've
Mhm.
taken this kind of business approach. So how did you decide that the off season wasn't just empty capacity, that it could actually be your growth engine?
It's so funny. We had this conversation, a few years ago when I brought to everybody this idea of, making January specifically a month that we would really bring the leadership lodge is what we're calling it. And bringing it to life really looks like handing the keys over to uh, an organization or a company of 25 to 30 people and saying the whole place is yours, right? There are no distractions. There's nobody else is here with you. Uh, what can we do to help utilize the space to get to the outcomes that you really need? I think that the differentiator that we've always seen is we used to run a consistent community leadership program starting from the very beginning. So this property is very conducive to team building, leadership development, very specific outcomes based programming. And year after year, the feedback was it's such a unique space to be able to be on your own and in this problem solving bubble for a certain number of days. And it started to me, it really started to feel like that's doable. But when there's other people around, like summer is really tough if there's kids running around and families and barbecues and all that kind of stuff. And while the weather is lovely, the goal is really to utilize the property with all elements of weather. So winter in Minnesota might be a bit intimidating for some people, but I love it. And I think we started to find that the really unique and kind of out there aspects of it with the snow and the ice and the wind and all the good stuff was those actually work to the benefit of learning lessons as opposed to hindering them. So that push from my end to say, we don't want to be open as much as possible when there's not revenue coming in. It's
Right.
simply business, right? But being able to open and close based on what groups need and when they can be here makes way more sense for us to be able to kind of parcel it out and say, the weeks and weekends in January and February are specifically for an exclusive use event. And that has become quite coveted at this point. It's a really unique experience. And it's not so much the shining. It doesn't feel like, kind of a scary book situation, but to be able to have everybody in the same spot and really push forward this idea that leadership development and team development from a retreat standpoint it is quite possibly one of the best things that you can do for your team. And so honing in on what we're good at and what we can offer, that is where I think that growth has started to come to life.
And, winters are long in Minnesota. It's more than just
Mhm.
January and February, right?
Right. Very true.
So, when did you launch the Leadership Lodge, and how's it going from a capacity standpoint?
Sure.
You mentioned that those weekends are coveted, but are you really at the capacity, or how do you grow this thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. at the moment, this year has been, I would consider this our kickoff year for the Leadership Lodge. We've been doing it for a really long time, just under the guise of a different name. We just haven't really given it an official title. We have started utilizing the Leadership Lodge as a way for groups to quite specifically hone in on outcomes-based programming and what it is that they're looking to achieve. So we go at it from a side of, are you struggling with something? Is it systems? Is it, onboarding? Is it turnover? Once we decide what it is that they're looking for, then we can go ahead and, suggest these are the facilitators that we partner with. Everybody is incredibly experienced. We're just so different in that aspect, as opposed to, there are so many places that you can go for a team retreat that have the amenities that everything you can think of. We don't do that because what we're focused in on is this experiential learning piece. That's where my master's came in creating a space that is so unique to learning, that the ones that are really looking to actually, invest in their teams and make it, a cultural piece, find the most value. And so this year has been a huge win. We are well ahead of the other years with our corporate business and associations. A lot of small businesses are coming in. We had one of the best springs we've ever had with group events and retreats, and the fall is looking to be about the same. So getting into, the winter months, of course, it's kind of touch and go depending on who's interested, but the conversations that we're having and the ones that we've booked for January, one, know exactly what it is that they're looking to do and really gain outcomes specific to them. And two, are really looking for something different. It's a unique experience that's not available in other places. So in order to build this model and really sustain it, we want to be very careful with who we're booking and who's coming, and aligning what it is that is exactly what we're hoping to get out of it. So,
sure, because it'd be great
in
if they
short,
booked it again in advance for the next year, right?
right, exactly.
You can get repeat
Yeah.
business, so that's the best model.
Yeah. So we're just kind of playing it in a way that makes sense for us and our staff. And at the moment, it is a really cool way to give companies the opportunity to kind of get away from the office, which is the whole idea, and really put them in a space that is just theirs. And that's essentially what is, from what we've heard and the conversations that I'm having, is so needed at the moment. So.
Yeah. And if you're a CEO maybe who has never done a retreat in your professional career, right? What's your value proposition? Because you're really selling to either CEOs who know the value of a retreat and so they're
Right.
seeking it out, right? But you might have a whole untapped market out there of people who just don't understand why it makes sense to take your whole team offsite for the cost, for the time that you're not working in
Right.
the business, right? Or they may delegate it to a CHRO or a CFO and say, go get me pricing, which that's
Right.
not really your model, right? You want to have the one-on-one conversation.
Mhm.
So how do you reach sort of that untapped part of the market so that you can be at 100% capacity?
Yeah, it's been a fun, honestly, it's been a fun test to see what it is that organizations really understand when it comes to retreats. Why are they important? Why would I put this money into it? And the research is truly, it's there that the investment that you put into your people is the best way to move forward with in a retention standpoint. The amount it costs to retrain people and deal with turnover it's increasing, specifically because I think the statistics right now show that Gen Z is, they're moving jobs once or twice a year. And so what is it that's forcing them into that? What is lacking in the culture in your organization? And what are you doing to get ahead of that? And, ensuring that you're not wasting money, trying to, you're just spinning wheels at this point to try and make that work. You're not moving forward. So, our value proposition is really a proactive approach to organizational development. building leaders from the inside is, something that is often overlooked. It's kind of expected, but it's not, there's not a lot of plan in terms of what your internal leadership development looks like.
Mhm.
And I think being able to kick it off in a place where everybody is on the same page, you're not remoting people in to try and
Right.
catch them up on the conversations that you're having. I think it really goes back to, the old model of not necessarily kicking the year off with, in all hands, but let's get together and, you know, understand what the communication looks like, where are we at with the culture, and what are the issues at hand, because there's so much that silent quitting and frustration because of honestly, a lack of communication. And so when it comes to CEOs and CFOs and, them understanding the value, it's there, but it's not. I think when you go at it with numbers, that makes a huge effect for them to make the decision.
Mhm.
But I think a bigger piece of it is once we get them on the call to talk about, what are your outcomes look like? Is it strategic planning? Are you, what are you lacking? You're reaching out. So what is it that you're looking to actually accomplish, and how can we do that? Or, are you looking to just have a celebration with your organization and really, just get people together? Then we can suggest what to do for that too. So it's a little bit of up and down in terms of what people really want to accomplish and what we can offer.
Yeah, and I think you shared with me it's not really a menu, right? You really want to understand that individual organization and their goals and objectives so that you can build a custom program around their
Yeah,
needs.
exactly. I cringe so much when I see these cookie cutter book programs being sold online, because I don't doubt that that's useful information, or that they have, other facilitators have the ability to kind of sell that in a way that works for them.
Hmm.
But I think in order to actually make progress in, the struggles that your organization specifically is going through, if it's not customized, you're probably not getting what it is that you need out of that program.
Right.
I think about, there's so many personality profile opportunities to understand communication, but if someone doesn't know how to deliver that properly, or, follow up and ensure that things are being done, then again, that's like handing out money and just waiting for something to come back to it. So yeah, being very intentional and specific about the outcomes that are completely customized to the group is, to me, is where our biggest value comes from.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for the next generation owner that might be listening, who loves what they inherited but knows it has to grow to last, what's the one thing that you wish someone had told you about the transition into leadership that you know now that you didn't know then?
Mm. Have I pulled out a list of things and just like, let's check them off? Um, I would say it's delicate, especially when it's, family to family. I think that communication is the biggest starting point. Are we on the same page? Are we understanding what the procedures are, the policies, all of the, the really boring stuff to begin with is it's critical in order to be able to do what you need to do to bring things in. Um, I also think from a from a generational standpoint, and I think this is happening a lot right now because there's a lot of businesses being handed over from the baby boomer generation onto who's taking it, or if it's being sold off. But to see, you know, to see it happen in real time and really take in what has been built. I think the questions that need to be asked at the very beginning are often uncomfortable. But having as much information as possible, because the previous owners, I mean, think about all of the information and the detail in their head that they haven't written down, or
Right.
they haven't, had time to put into writing or describe to somebody. So I think the ongoing questions and just the patience getting into it is that coming in as a new owner is like, I have this idea and I see this that needs to be adjusted, or I can make this more efficient. And there's a really delicate balance of, wanting to do everything all at once. It's like when you buy a new home and you want to like you want it to be ready to go right away. You're like, I need a couch, I need a bed, I need everything on the walls. But it's not going to happen in the first day or two. Like it takes time to really cultivate what that atmosphere is like in the culture. And so being really patient with the ideas that you have and implementing change, because change is really hard for a lot of people. So it's so delicate. Long story short, my advice most specifically is the communication and asking as many questions as possible. I think getting that information that's in their brain out as often as possible is gonna make it that much more fun and more interesting. So
I think you summed it up like this the last time we talked. You said, ask the hard questions, take notes, document the knowledge that lives in your predecessor's brain, and then build the systems, data, payroll, etc., so that you're not relying on that founder forever. And you've got an automated approach.
Yeah. Being able to automate things, and AI is an interesting one. I have a lot of thoughts and concerns and interest in it, but there are programs available to help with that stuff specifically. And I think seeking that information out and learning more about it is the only way to really, keep yourself above water and not drown in all of the information. So yeah, it's quite the undertaking, but it's definitely doable. So.
Well, Abby, this has been one of the most grounded conversations I've had about what it actually takes to honor a legacy while building something new. So thank you so much for your candor, your vulnerabilities, your honesty about the generational tension, your own self-doubt sometimes, and the power of having the right mentors in your corner.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And to our Think Small listening audience, if today's podcast made you think differently about how to transition from family leadership, or how to turn constraints into competitive advantage, or why the culture work is worth the investment, please share this with someone on your team who needs to hear it. That's the way we grow this conversation. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time on the Think Small podcast.
Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?